there's going to be more of a demand for furnished rentals because people don't like to lug around their stuff. The second reason why I think that midterm rentals are going to grow rapidly in popularity both in 2025 and in the future is because okay, so in 2024, there were more concessions offered to renters than what was offered to them in the past. And there's every reason to think that this trend is going to continue into 2025. So what this means to you is that you need to be offering concessions to tenants as a landlord if you want to attract tenants. But Erin, I don't know what a concession is. That's okay, I'm gonna explain to you what a concession is, and I'm going to do it both on a broader brainstorming level and a specific level. So on the more broad brainstorming level, the point of the concession is to make the renter feel that they are getting value and that they are saving money. They will see your concession and recognize that what you are offering is one, useful to them, and two, brings value to them. Now, think about your renter coming across your concession. The renter is sitting at their computer, cup of coffee in hand, sighing because they have to move and everyone hates moving. They're looking through the options, feeling a little overwhelmed, and then they sit up straighter when they see the freebie that you are offering. That is the emotion we are trying to evoke. Side note, it is always important to remember that often your renters are like you. They could be your coworker, your friend, your socioeconomic peer. And so for that reason, it is smart to occasionally think, what would I care about in a property? What's important to me? You could think about your last vacation and what you were looking for the property that you rented, even if it was just a hotel. Brainstorming that will help you think about what concessions to offer. But because I promised to you that I'm going to give you specifics, here are a few concessions that you could offer that hopefully will evoke that emotion. So free parking is a good one. A discounted rental if they rent for 3 months or more. This is more appropriate in like the midterm rental space, the furnished rental space. So hey, you're gonna come in for 3 months, we'll knock a little bit off the bill. Absorbing the utilities. So these are all examples of concessions that you could be talking about in your rental listing that will be attractive to your tenant. Okay, so in addition to concessions, in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 midterm rental trends that you should be aware of for 2025. Some quick housekeeping before we get into the meat of the video. If you feel like you've learned something so far or you learned something during this video, please like it. It helps grow the channel and it also helps me to understand what kind of content is helpful to you guys. Second, subscribe if you want more content like this in 2025, and that content will cover how to get renters, how to keep renters, tricks for the various rental platforms, etc. And then third, book consulting if you want to ask specific questions about your property. So a big one coming up right now is how people are asking for a lot of discounts and how you should manage that as a landlord, because it's always a push-pull of vacancy versus what you're going to make rent-wise. And I would argue that booking one session may pay for itself if it prevents you from having to give a big discount because you are unsure of what to do. So just a thought. Okay, so now let's go into trend 2 that we can anticipate in the rental, in the midterm rental space in 2025. Concessions was number 1. What's number 2? So first, a story about how to be unpopular, wildly unpopular with your friends in your 20s. I promise this is relevant. Second, know that this story directly ties into some emerging midterm rental furnished 30+ day platforms. So if you are looking for a competitive edge, what I'm about to talk to will also relate to the midterm rental platforms that I'll talk about later in this video. So story time. I was once unpopular with my friends. Why? Because every year I was asking them to do something that everyone hates, everyone finds super annoying, and everyone would rather avoid. So imagine my friends back in the early 2000s, it's a late Friday afternoon in May, and said friend would be looking out the window, beautiful blue Colorado sky, thinking about the great hike they could take on Saturday morning. Hey, they'd bring their dog, they'd have a cold brew coffee on the drive to the mountains, they'd eat their favorite Mexican restaurant on the way home, maybe have a marg, maybe have 2, and then I'd pop into their daydream and it would be all, hey, remember, you're helping me move this weekend. And that, my friends, is a dream killer and also a way to be unpopular. How is this related to trend 2 in 2025? Well, I think that I moved every single year for the 11 years leading up to when I met James and ultimately got married. So for 11 years, I moved subpar furniture all over Denver and ruined weekends for my friends and for myself because that's what you did. I had zero attachment to this furniture, but it had to be moved. It had to be lugged all over the city. Therefore, this annoyance, this inconvenience, and this social drain is one reason why I think people will be more into midterm rentals or furnished 30+ day rentals. To be clear, I am saying midterm 30+ day furnished rentals are going to expand wildly in popularity over the next year, 5 years, 10 years, because I think the younger generation and even the older generation to some extent has been primed to accept that you can move into other people's homes or properties and that they will be furnished for you. So in the past, we've always had long-term furnished rentals as an option, but most people really didn't do it. You saw it in corporate housing, you saw it with nurses a little bit, but the general population didn't. And because I think a lot of elderly people and also younger people are not gonna love moving stuff around, I think they will take the option to just move their body in and out of apartments that are furnished, and often furnished in a way that's curated, custom, looks really cool, and it would be a much better experience for those tenants than dragging around all of their crappy old furniture. So that's reason number one why I think we're gonna see midterm rentals explode here in the immediate future up to the next 5 to 10 years, right? Is because I think there's gonna be more of a demand for furnished rentals because people don't like to lug around their stuff. The second reason why I think that midterm rentals are going to grow is because Millennials and Gen Z don't really like owning things. They value experiences over consumerism, and Gen Z is particularly anti-consumerism and has much more of a focus on minimalism. And if you think that they have that mindset, then they do not want to collect a bunch of furniture that is going to hold them down, or they're going to have to find somewhere for it to go. It makes a lot more sense that they would rent other people's furniture just like they rent other people's properties as they move around locations and figure out what job, what lifestyle, what city they want to live in. So for those two reasons, I feel very strongly that the midterm rental market is going to grow, and it's something to lean into in 2025. All right, trend number 3. So when competition enters the market, prices go down. So the third trend for 2025, unfortunately, is that I happen to think rents are going to stall out or they are going to decrease. And the reason why I think that is because more competition is entering the market. When I started doing midterm rentals in 2017, and the reason why I did that is because we had a bunch of short-term rentals, and then their laws, we had all these furnished units, and it was like, okay, now what? So we were like, instead of getting rid of the units and the furniture, we're going to try to go after the 30+ day furnished rental market. And because that was 2017, I didn't have a lot of competition. So you could just throw up anything, wasn't a big deal, and you got booked pretty quickly because there was a pretty large tenant pool that was being ignored. This large tenant pool being corporate people or traveling nurses that needed 30+ day furnished rentals, and there just weren't that many landlords that were thinking about it. What's crazy is that even in 2017, Airbnb existed, but it wasn't anywhere close to as popular as it's been in the last 5 years. So people weren't really offering these 30+ day rentals, so you could throw up anything. It didn't have to look that good. It didn't have to be marketed that well, and anyone would rent it. Well, that's not the case now. Our rental market is expanding, or I happen to believe it'll expand, because I think it's a convenience that people will lean into and that suits the younger generations and what they're interested in. Minimalism, not owning things, kind of a lot of career change, location change, things like that. While I think it's expanding, I think the other issue here is that you have more competition in the midterm space. The pool is expanding, but you need to be thoughtful about who you're renting to. And specifically what I mean here is stop the emphasis on nurses. It's great if you get a nurse tenant. It is great if you get an insurance tenant. It is great if you get a relocation tenant. I would never tell you to not take one of those tenants, but what I would tell you is that you're working against your own interests by specifically focusing on those demographics. You should set up your rental in a way that has mass appeal, because there's a lot more competition going after those particular demographics. Insurance, relocation, nurses, and there's less competition going after the wider demographic of other people that need these rentals. And who that looks like is just common renters that don't want to lug around their stuff, people getting divorced, military, people that are new to town that aren't sure where they want to live, people that are in the middle of a new build where the new build isn't completed. There are countless reasons to have a midterm rental, and so you want your listing to appeal to all of them. But that said, midterm rents often mirror long-term rents, and long-term rents are stalling out a little bit in the US. So we have year-over-year growth. We've seen a little bit of a decrease month over month, but I am hearing it from people on my consulting calls. I am experiencing it myself, where we're just seeing a little bit more competition in the market. This is also why concessions are becoming more popular. It's because renters have a little bit more power than they used to, just as buyers have a little bit more power than they used to because of the interest rates, right? So if you know the competition has increased in the last couple of years, and we have every reason to continue to think it's going to increase in 2025, what you need to plan for is how to get your place rented amongst that competition. Concessions is one way to do it. The other way to do it is to lower your rent. People don't like hearing that, but some money is better than no money. And in the midterm space in particular, you can adjust your rates on the monthly level, at least on Airbnb you can, and you can help offset the slow months like November and December with the hotter months, let's say summertime, and so you can recoup some of those costs. But even if you don't, having someone else pay your mortgage in part or full is better than you paying your mortgage. And where we see people go wrong with this is that they get so dug in on a price. They look at their neighbor's house across the street and they think, that house isn't as nice as mine, and last summer I know that they got this, and then they have it in their head that they're either going to sell their house for that cost or they're going to get that rent, and they don't take into account that the trends have changed. And when you do this, your property gets a stigma because nobody likes to be around a loser, and they associate your property as a loser if it's just been sitting for a long time. That's true whether it's a sale or a rental. And the other issue with this is that the landlord or the seller is carrying costs while their property devalues because they've set it at the wrong price. So for that reason, I encourage you to start high with your rents, high where you think you can get your rents, and then bring it down until you start to see the market respond. And the truth is, the price is whenever the market starts to respond. That's the true price. It's not the price that you think it is or that your neighbor got last summer. It's whenever the market starts to respond and react to your rental, that's the price. Let's talk about trend number 4. So for trend number 4, I'm going to talk about a differentiator that I think not a ton of tenants will want, but there probably has some regional preference in the United States. It's more popular internationally. The reason why I'm going to recommend this item is because it doesn't cost you very much. It'll cost you like $100 to $200 more. There's a filter for it on Airbnb. It will give you a competitive advantage over your peers if someone is searching for it. And to have that low of an investment and then have that advantage is a huge deal, and always what we want to look for in our rentals. Before I tell you what it is, a couple reminders. I am an Amazon associate, so if you click on the link that I put in the description for this product, I will get a small cut for that. You don't pay for it, Amazon will pay for it. Second, Black Friday is coming up. This is a very good time to furnish a rental if you have just bought a property or if you are converting a property. I was just having a conversation with a consulting client about trying to thrift on a property and how it wasted a lot of time, the place didn't look that great, and she ultimately ended up buying on Amazon anyways. I recommend just skipping this step and going straight to Amazon. It's what I do. And the benefit of Amazon is that it'll get delivered to you and you can also see reviews. I have an entire midterm rental shop that I will link to, and I also have the midterm rental items that you need broken down by room. So you can just click in there. Again, I do get a commission on it, but it also could be helpful to you and save you a lot of time, and that commission is paid for by Amazon, not by you. Okay, so what is this item that I'm recommending that's between $100 and $200 and will give you an advantage over your competition? It is a security safe. So trend number 5, the biggie, the one people are probably waiting for, and the reason why I think this is because my consulting clients are often asking me, like, what's the secret platform that no one knows about? What's the platform that I can get on? And I'm going to talk to you about 2 of them, but I'm also going to tell you my philosophy on this and how it ties in. So I am consistent all over these channels saying if you're going to pursue a platform, pursue Airbnb, Furnished Finder, or Zillow, because they have the biggest name recognition and those are the ones that you want to pursue. And everything else is a waste of time, or turning money on your time would not be worth it to you versus just being on the big platforms. I can relate to you guys on this because I think the same things when I'm making video and I'm trying to think about how can I get in front of a new audience. Well, I'm not going to go on X, but are there some X alternatives that make sense that I can go beyond? Well, does that make sense? Are there enough people on those alternatives to actually get play for the videos? What are the other biggies? What are the ones you have heard of? When it comes to videos, it's like TikTok and YouTube is where everybody finds you. Obviously Instagram has some presence, but then there's all these other little video websites that you've never heard of. And yes, I could be on there and I could be the only midterm rental creator on there, but it wouldn't be a huge advantage because the audience isn't very big. And that's really how I think you should think about the platforms as well. But that said, it's always good to do a check-in on what the trends are and what the market is saying about rental platforms. A bit of research to see which platforms were emerging, and it seemed like there were two that were really coming out ahead. Okay, so the first one is Blue Ground Rentals and the second is Landing Rentals, and these are both for the midterm rental space. And I haven't done a ton of research on them, so I'm not going to talk about what you can or can't do. I'm just saying that for a cursory review of emerging midterm rental platforms, Landing came up and Blue Ground came up. So what was interesting though is that Google Trends said that one was very popular, and then ChatGPT said a different one was very popular. So ChatGPT said Blue Ground was the more popular one. If you looked at Google Trends, Landing Rentals was killing Blue Ground Rentals, meaning that there was way more search volume for Landing Rentals. So then I was kind of looking at the difference as far as how people talk about them and which one you would want. And it didn't seem like there was a ton of difference. They're both international. They have a little bit of a different focus. So Blue Ground, I think, is a little bit more luxury and goes after corporate a little bit more. And then Landing is more interested in the local market and like smaller, more urban units. So with that in mind, I think that if you're going to pursue one of these new rental platforms, I would 100% go after Landing Rentals versus Blue Ground. Go after both if you have time, but if you're trying to make a decision or you just want to experiment with one or the other, I would go after Landing because of what I said earlier, which is that I don't think that midterm rentals are just going to be a niche rental anymore. I think they're going to be the future of the rental market, and I think they're going to be the future of the rental market at the local level. So people will be renting locally in their area just like they do, just as all tenants do, right? Or the majority of tenants do, but they'll now be doing it for furnished rentals. And so if Landing is pursuing that local rental market, then Landing, in my opinion, is the stronger one that you want to go after. And also Google Trends reflects that. But also, I still kind of think Airbnb is still the king. It's where I get all my rentals, and it's also where I'm at all the time. If you want help on it, reach out to me about consulting. As a side note, I'm about to recap the 5 trends before we end, but a couple other things. If you have learned something in this video, please like it. Second, if you were looking for an overview of different tenant types that you should be pursuing, that's the video I'm going to link to. Okay, so a quick recap of the midterm rental landscape for 2025. These are the trends I recommend paying attention to. Concessions, thinking about what your concessions are, thinking about how to market them, thinking about how to offer them to the tenants. The second one is that the market is growing. The midterm rental market is growing. And if you're watching this video, that's great news for you because you are probably already starting to pursue a midterm rental strategy. 3, the rents may decrease or flatline. That's okay. We can weather this storm. Tons of people got rich off of real estate before it was even furnished rentals. And so if the rents go down a little bit or they don't go up, that's not the end of the world. Not a big deal. It's just something that you might have to deal with for the next year or two. Okay, 4th tip for the midterm rental landscape in 2025, safes. Think about getting a $100 to $200 safe off of Amazon. A minimal cost, it will give you an advantage with a small tenant pool over your competition. And if you just secure one renter based off of having a safe, it is absolutely paid for itself. And then finally, 2 emerging midterm rental platforms to pay attention to in 2025 are Blue Ground and Landing Rentals. And of course, don't ever sleep on Airbnb. Thank you for watching this video. Good luck with your midterm rentals in 2025. I'll be back soon with more content.